Awesome.
Okay, welcome everyone to Witch Bitch, where we talk the real tea. And today we have Tracy on the show. Now, me and Mum actually, we know Tracy more than like we have with our other guests, because we're in a dream weaving group with her. And yeah, I don't know, I'm just so excited because this is the first time that we've had someone from our dream weaving community come onto our page, so it really does feel like we're dream weaving, like,
Yes.
in this moment together, because this is like one of our dreams that we share. So yeah, I think we'll start as we always start and ask how you woke up and like how did you get to where you are today, really?
Wow, that's I call it my colourful journey.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for the invitation to be here too, by the way. My colourful journey. So I was aware and awake as a child, and I could see and feel and hear things, and I was seeing people that other people weren't seeing, and talking to others that others weren't seeing. And then I had some really massive trauma. So, and also my family had a story around mental illness.
Yeah, right.
So it shut down. It wasn't safe for me to be connected. And then it just kept rising up, like it wasn't staying down for long, and there was lots and lots of layers throughout my journey of it rising up and down. And I remember pregnancy was a time when I became really aware as well. It really opened channels, and there was a real deep reminding of why I was, not exactly why I was here, but that there was something really big for me to be here for. And I just started asking. To remember what it was. Help me to remember, because in my early teens, because it tends to awaken, your gifts tend to want to rise up when you're going through hormonal changes a lot. And so when you come into puberty, that's why a lot of children, teenage, pre-teens and stuff like that start to get a bit wobbly, and they maybe start to experience out-of-body stuff. And so in that time, I've just lost my train of thought where I was going with that.
You're talking about your pregnancy and you had hormonal.
Yep. So hormones, and when you're a teenager, I remember it rising up again as a teenager, and so I turned to drugs and alcohol, and big time.
Yeah, right.
Because it was also correlated with moving back to a place that was where my first traumas had happened. So there was this unconscious remembering. So the whole journey was like this all the way along, and so shut it down again for a long time. And then really, life got very colourful from that stage, as you can imagine. But it just kept rising up, and I'd shove it down a little bit and let a little bit come up and shove it down a little bit. And then I think, where are we now? 2022. So probably about 15 to 20 years ago. Hold on, sorry, I'll retract that. My eldest is 29, so it was around 30 years ago. That I really started to go, okay, this, I'm going to allow this to happen, and stop fighting it. So, and it's just gone from strength to strength. It hasn't been an easy journey, but it's gone from strength to strength from there. And then I did quite a bit of work around 2011 and 12 with Mandy Horton, and in her spiritual development group that she had here in Whangarei, and that was a really good leg for me to understand myself a bit more. And then I met Family Constellations, which totally makes me understand myself a whole lot more, even on another layer. So so that's a little bit about it.
Awesome. So how did your journey lead you to where you are now? Like, what are you doing with yourself now based on what you've learned through that journey?
So now I'm a family constellation facilitator and trainer, and as well as an intuitive healer, and I do sound healings and intuitive art, and I do whatever really the people's guides and spirits ask me to do, through my guides. And with family constellations, it's intergenerational trauma healing.
Mm-hmm.
We have our own stuff, and 95% of what we think is ours isn't ours.
Mm-hmm. There's
a deeper thread. So we're playing out the same energy, different story usually, or a similar story, but the thread of it didn't start with us. But we do create our own stuff, don't get me wrong. So it's brought me onto that because mixed up in my early trauma and the repeated trauma that I experienced throughout life was a whole lot of grief and sadness and stuff that was passed on. So so learning the work, and I found it really easy for me because it made me understand myself a bit more, because I could never understand how I could walk into a room and feel things, and then I could stand beside someone and feel like I'm a completely different person, and my voice might change, and I'll be standing there and not understand why I'm feeling these different feelings. And now that I know how the field works and our interconnection with each other, I understand that I was actually channeling stuff for them, like I might have been channeling their lost twin or their grandfather, who was, just the energies were so different. So being a facilitator and learning the work really helped me do that, and constantly learning.
So how do you now separate, like, how do you realize and then separate somebody else's energy from your own? Because it can be quite mixed in, can't it? The lines can be blurred.
Yeah, so I have a really good connection with my guides, and I strengthen that, and I communicate with them, and I have set up a system with them where I said to them, all right, so if we're going to do this, if you want me to do this, you want me to be authentic and blah, 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 all the things that I was having a little rant at them. I said, then I need you to be my filter. I need you to make sure that what's coming in for me is just for me. Because, there's so many signals out there, right? So many radio waves. Yeah. So I want to be a clear channel, and I want you to make sure that you filter what comes in. It's either for me or a message for me to pass on for someone. And I said, and if I'm not listening, because in the early days, listening wasn't as easy as it is now, tell me 3 times. So, and then I'll know, just recognizing that voice and that feeling. So I have this set up with them. I had a little incident where they tested me, and they kept telling me, I was in the shop, and they kept telling me, go and check your car. And I was like walking around like a crazy woman going, I'm fine, stop hassling me in the shop, looking like there's plenty of time, just leave me alone, looking at my watch. And I got out to the car, and I had a fine on my car. And I was like, oh, damn it. And they said, well, if you'd listened, you would have got the fine. And I was like, oh, yeah. They said, you set up the rules. Oh, yeah. Okay. So it was like painless, but painful, but painless, really, at the end of the day. So I really trust them, because we had that little test. I knew that they were listening, and I just needed to listen a little bit more as well. So when I'm in that space, if I'm not sure if what I'm feeling with someone else is intermingled with my own stuff, I'll ask Spirit, is this mine? Or, I could be standing in the line at the post office and feeling a little off, which has happened to me, feeling off color. I'm like, is this mine? I got a clear no. And then I hadn't even noticed this lady, bless her soul, standing in front of me, little old lady, and it was like really clearly it was her stuff. So I sent it on. I didn't send it back to her directly. I sent it back with consciousness attached and
Yeah.
off to the right. So
yeah, I kind of have similar things happen to me. If even in private, like sometimes I get these feelings. Like last night, I had this.
Oh yeah.
I had this massive feeling that like a kick in the guts. It was horrible, and it made me real. It was like
I
really.
hadn't seen you like that in a long time.
Yeah, it was
She
really.
just couldn't talk. Like you were just like, yeah.
It was depressing.
Yeah, it was. I thought I did something wrong. I'm like, are you okay? And yeah.
But I was alone in my room. It was really weird. And I don't know if it's coming from next door, maybe through the house. I don't know. But I feel I went to bed and I slept fine, and I've woken up this morning and I don't have that feeling anymore.
Mm.
And it kind of came over me like a cloud. It was like really strong.
Yeah.
And it was instant. It was like this denseness that just hit me like a brick wall. And and I don't know, I never think to myself, is this mine? Like I never think to ask that question because I'm feeling it in the moment.
Deeply,
I just automatically, because I'm experiencing it, I'm not thinking outside myself to say, is this mine, you know?
I didn't for a long time either, and I think part of that was my programming of with the trauma and the layers of trauma and the PTSD and all that went with it. That I just took it all on. It's my fault.
Yeah.
I'm feeling this. This is mine. You know, and I got labelled a hypochondriac at times because I'd walk into a room and suddenly I feel really unwell, and I'd need to sit down, or my head will be spinning, or I just want to, like you say. So I had to learn. It's a muscle to practice that conscious thought as well. Is this mine?
Yeah,
and
right.
you can ask your guides, remind me to ask the question.
Yeah.
I do that a bit. Remind me to check in with you guys at night. So when I lie in bed and they go, hey, don't forget to check in. Oh yeah, I'm going to check in with you. Yeah. So because that's what they're there for. They want to help us. They want to be doing things and not just keeping us out of danger. Not just I'm listening for the whispers now, not the screams. Stop screaming.
Sometimes I hear things, like a thought will come into my head and I'll shut it down because it's triggering. Like it's not triggering in a bad way. It's like, okay, you got to do this now, and I'm not in a position where I want to do it.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
oh, hello.
Yeah,
that's me as well.
So it's like I'm my own worst enemy in the situation, because I'm like, no, I don't want to, like you in the supermarket going, no, I've got time, I'm fine, like I argue back with them. And it's like, it's to my own detriment. They're not saying it to me for them, they're saying it to me for me. And then after the fact, I look back and go, oh, I should have listened. I should have listened to that. Yeah.
No, I agree. I mean, I think for me, the hardest thing at the start of, any new habit, any new journey that you're going on is remembering to remember. Like remembering to ask the question, is that mine? Because you're so deep in it, especially when you're starting something new, like trying to build a new habit or build a new relationship with the part of your body. Whatever it may be, it's like fresh, the energy, you haven't experienced it before, so you're so much deeper in it. And then also on top of that, remembering to remember is just something that doesn't seem like a priority. And then
and you saying that it's fresh, when something feels new, it's often uncomfortable. Like it's a new feeling, it's a new experience. Like this whole journey for me has been extremely uncomfortable. It's like you were saying the other day, I don't know who you were telling, but you were talking about opening your eyes as a new baby for the first time. When a baby opens its eyes and its eyes are stinging because it's never had to look at the world before, and the eyes are like new. and it's that feeling of uncomfortableness and getting used to being uncomfortable in situations and hearing the intuition and listening to the intuition and knowing that, okay, this is my intuition, this is for me, this isn't for me. All of that stuff is all, I think, like, for my experience, it's been like a bit of a roller coaster ride. And I mean, part of the reason why we do this is to speak to people like you, so these conversations can happen, so people are like, yeah, oh, that's, you know, that's how I feel too. It's been a roller coaster for me too, you know. And to know that the roller coaster gets better, like the more you're on it, the more you experience it, the easier it gets.
I'm being really drawn to telling you about one of my experiences, and it wasn't a pleasant one. But it was one where they screamed at me, and I knew, and every cell in my body knew that I had to listen to them. So I was 17, and I had made a new friend, my neighbour's sister, and we'd gone out one night and we had a great time. I was a little bit uncomfortable with some of her behaviour, just towards other people. You know, she was pretty overly affectionate, we'll say, because I could see that there could be trouble. But anyway, I really liked her and we got on really well. And the next night she said, hey, let's go out again. And because they always talk to me from the right, just yelled, no! Every cell in my body was like, and I was like, and I said no. And I remember my mum even saying, because I'd been going through a whole lot of stuff around that time, and she was worried about me and trying to get me out, because, you know, I think she thought I had a bit of mental illness at the time. And she says, oh, you should go. And I was like, no, I can't go out. I just can't. And the next morning we discovered, I haven't spoken about this for a long time, but she was murdered intentionally that night.
Wow.
Planned. And I would have been with her if I had gone and I hadn't listened to my intuition.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah. So, you know, when you've got that voice, and that voice is telling you, don't do this, listen.
Yeah.
It's saved me many times. So that's why I say now they can whisper. They don't have to, because I'm like,
yeah, because you're in the habit of listening to them.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really, like, big. I don't know what other word to use.
Yeah, wow.
I think that kind of, like, there's so many things for me where I am getting yelled at, never so strongly, or hardly ever so strongly, but there are times where I'm getting, like, told to do something, and it's sort of like a rebelliousness in me. It's like, no, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm going to do what I want. And I think, and then I get myself into some, like, shit, basically. So it's never anything like major, because I must admit, something about myself is I do tread water very lightly, when just in life in general. And so when I do get in the shit, it's like I only take one step and then I realize that I'm there, and then I come back. I don't go too deep into it. So yeah, it's
yeah, she's not a risk taker.
I'm not a big risk taker, but that is something that I want to develop in myself in a beautiful way, where it's not so much risk taking out of rebelliousness, but more
the calculated one.
Yeah, and out of intuition as well. And I think that's something that I really do see so strongly in you, Tracy. I think that's, like, a big reason why I even felt called to name this, like,
the channel.
This video,
The
Power of the Shaman, because I remember we were on a call once and you were telling me about owning the word shaman, because it took you a long time to not own that word.
It took me a long time to own it, yeah.
Yes. And then I got a big synchronicity last night when we were on another call and you were leading a meditation, and you were talking about, you know, ancestors behind us, and these ancestors came forward and would give us a gift. And I got a Native American shaman who gave me a drum, and again, I don't know the name, but the feather crown is what I like to call it. And it took me, when she gave it to me, these programs of like, oh, I can't accept that. It's disrespectful if I accept that. I can't own that. And then I was like, hang on, stop. Because this like spirit came to me and gave this to me. I can't just like not accept that. That would be disrespectful in a way, disrespectful to myself most of all. So I was like, let's cut all that out and let's take the gifts and wear them with pride. And so in the meditation, I was like, I'm owning this. And I think that was a big like confirmation synchronicity with this title for the video, because I was kind of like, I don't know if this is right, I'm not sure, but it just like came to me, so I just put it down. And like, I think being a shaman means being able to see the signs of yourself and listen to the signs of the universe. Like when you're being yelled at by your guides, to listen. And when you see a crow out the window, like we did before starting the recording, acknowledging that and then like feeling into it. It's like, yeah, it's like understanding the language of the universe around you. It, to me, is like a big part of being a shaman. So, and I think that you've got that down pat, you know. But I would love to hear as you're owning this word and as you have owned it, like how is that process for you, and like how do you describe a shaman for yourself, really?
Good question. So I didn't want to own the word shaman. People would say to me, "Oh, you're a shaman." And I would go, "No, don't call me that. Don't call me that. Call me a medicine woman. Call me a Mother Earthly type person. Who, you know, whatever you want to call me, a witch. Don't call me a shaman." And there was a part of me feeling like I hadn't earned the right to be called a shaman in this life. Yeah. So, and then looking at the qualities of shaman, what do they go through? And what do they do, and what do they hear and see and feel? And yeah, I guess I have had a different journey to being where I am now. And I do practice shamanic practices. And seeing the title that you put up, it's like, okay, yep. It wasn't a rejection or any uneasy feelings around it. It was like, okay, yeah. So I guess the more I call parts of myself back in, the more I can claim myself as a whole person. It allows me to be able to claim that part of me as well, the shaman part. Yeah. And it is just a label, really.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, I don't call myself a shaman in any of my labels, but I do practice shamanic practices.
Yeah.
So how did you support yourself then, Tracy, in coming to that place of acceptance? How did you, was it something that you decided, okay, I'm going to support myself in this acceptance, or was it something that came from outside of yourself? Was it just a light bulb moment that, like, you know, pinged in your brain? What
I think it was more of a light bulb moment when I realized, you know, all right, I'm doing this, I'm having these out of body experiences. I go off and I do things in the night on different levels. I practice things. I think it was actually in a meditation. I don't know, it's kind of everything around me is melding together, really, because the world is shifting so quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was just kind of a light bulb moment here, which made me become more okay with myself here, if that makes sense.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I love ritual, so that and I practice a lot of ritual in my work. I think it's really important. Yeah, so I guess it's just kind of, yeah, and I've actually met a couple of shamans who I just get on, we're on the same vibe. So it's like,
Yeah, right.
stop denying this part of yourself that is wanting to be seen in the world.
Yeah. I mean, definitely, I think the word shaman, it is a powerful word, but at the same time, it is just simply a word. Yeah. And yeah, it's just interesting because, like, I didn't want to own it either, and I'm not in a state of being where I can even, like, where I feel comfortable to identify with that label in any way, shape, or form. But I think it's something that I do work towards, like, with the energy of the shaman, like the energy of the ritual and the nature, and like the interwovenness with Mother Earth, I think. And that's something that I always sort of be inspired by. I'm just like inspired by that energy, because it's seriously like, in so many ways, it's like the center of the tribe. Like it's like so much wisdom held in there. And with so many things, like with the shaman, I don't know, it's just like, I don't know, I feel really called to it at the moment. I feel very like inspired.
As you're talking, so something else that's dropping in for me was the realization that and when I got my head around parallel universes, and that there's a part of me that's owning this and rocking the world and just like fully embraced the shaman, and that I can tap into that part of me and use that when I need to, and then there's, and when I don't need that as much, I'm here. So I'm using these different parts of me. When I want to be more feminine, I'm going to the part of me that's oozing femininity, and then when I want to be more motherly or more grounded. So there's so many different parallel universes, and that really helped me. The practice of, so in constellations, I can use objects on the ground to represent different things and stand with the intention that I'm going to see what it feels like to stand with the part of me that is, that is claimed to a shaman, the inner shaman, and part of me that feels whole, that never experienced, the trauma as a child. And don't get me wrong, you might be surprised what you feel in those spaces. They might not be all fluffy and rainbowish as we think, so it's just an interesting experience. So that has really helped me too, to know that there are parts of me that can do that, and parts of me that I can call in from the future as well.
Yeah, like what comes to mind when you say that is our meditation last night on the call that we had, where the ancestors were standing behind us, and I had this real struggling feeling. So it was like I was standing with them, the energy was around me, and I was struggling to, it was like sort of like the internet cutting in and out. It was like that that frustrating feeling of not being in ease, not being fully present, and not being able to fully connect. And I know it was coming from me, because they were there, and they were happy to be there. That much I knew, but it was like there was something going on in me that just wasn't fully present with them. And I think it's like, this is a theme that's coming up for me recently. I think it's fear. I think that's what the interference is for me. I think it's just the fear, and I think it's a program that I'm buying into. And I don't know why. There's a reason why I'm buying into it. Maybe because I want to stay in my little cave and I don't want to come out.
Yeah.
You know, I don't like, and they might have a gift for me that's going to open me up and bring me out of my cave, and I'm not ready to come out of that cave yet. You know, that's the feeling that I'm getting around it. So everything, like I'm in situations, I'm putting myself in situations where I'm being called to step out of the fear.
Yeah.
So I'm obviously wanting to step out of the fear, but then when it comes to the point of actually doing it, it's like, oh no, turtle head goes back in.
So did that feeling that you had of the kick in the guts, was that before or after Uncle?
After.
Yeah.
And we were actually, we were doing a live on Witch Bitch when it started. We were talking about the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Oh wow.
So I was out there. I was putting myself out there. I was being visible.
Yeah.
After the call, I was, you know, and that's when it started. It was like, oh, maybe there is something that's like trying to keep me back in the cave, because I was putting myself out there, and then this kick in the guts feeling came. So I don't know, that might have something to do with it.
Yeah.
Or maybe you were connecting into the energy of the Dead Scrolls and what was there to be seen.
Possibly. Yeah, possibly.
I mean, that would make sense, because the whole surrounding theme around that video was that what we see, the mainstream story, and what we see about the Dead Sea Scrolls isn't the whole story.
No, it's not.
So like, and you were talking about being seen. You were being seen, and then that's when you felt it. So who knows? And I also wanted to go back to what you were saying, Tracy, about like the different parts of you that you can tap into, because that has been something that I've been going through very strongly, I think. And I think as we post this, a lot of people will be feeling the same, especially as we're like speeding up. It's like this multiverse is coming closer together, and different parts of yourself are showing up as we're speeding along. Because like I have all these sides to me are showing up, especially as I'm reading books, because like I'm reading about these characters, and then it's triggering or putting a light on a part of me that I see in that character that I hadn't seen before. Or it's literally there's like, it's like another version of me. It's like a witch version, an artist version, a like cowgirl version. Like there's so many. So and I don't think I have stepped into, when they do show up, it's more of a viewing, like I view them, which kind of makes sense because it's like the first time they're coming up. But it's interesting how you're talking about actually utilizing these different parts and stepping into that version when you feel the energy will serve where you're at in that moment, and then stepping into another version when, you know, and then coming back to you when, you know, like this universe's version sort of thing, and integrating all these like different parts as you see fit with what you're going through in life. Because I was always curious, as more and more of these Juliets were coming up, like I was thinking there's so many, how on earth am I gonna like integrate all these? Because my thought was like, oh, I love all these different versions of myself. I want to like become them. I want them to be like part of me. But the thing is, they already are, for one. And number two, like, I think mixing them all together would defeat the purpose of them all being around me, or those energies being around me. So, yeah, I really love the idea of when, you know, say, for example, I'm feeling like a lack of kindness, or a lack of you know, softness in my life, I'll step into like the fairy version of myself or whatever, and like stepping into that energy, and like that's a way to integrate, instead of just like thinking, oh my god, I have to learn from this version of myself and bring it in. It's like such a mind. I go into such a mind place when
trying to figure it all out.
Have you ever seen that movie Sense8?
No.
Netflix. It's SENSE and then the number 8. And it's about these children. I think they were all born on the same day, and it's not like the Umbrella Academy, it's different. And they're all in different parts of the world, and they can sense what this other one's feeling on the other side of the world, and they can bring themselves to that moment. Like this guy's he's needing help, he's in a fight, and so there's one of them that does amazing, martial arts, so she steps in and she takes over.
Oh, that's cool.
It's a really cool movie, lots of sex, lots of fighting, but really not. It's
intrigue.
Cool. It's an interesting story. It had me hooked. My girlfriend and I watched it. We had a little marathon of it, and I think there's a part 2 coming out soon as well. So, but that's a really neat way of understanding in a different way. But I mean, we're talking about the parts of ourselves, but this is a whole nother level of it. And I know that there are times when I sense my friends on the other side of the world, and I sense what's going on for them, or I sense what's happening collectively too. So that makes sense as well. So, yeah. And you were talking about when you're reading and stuff. I read when I was about 18, 19. I read Clan of the Cave Bear. And
I've
Ayla,
heard of that book.
Yeah, and Ayla was what are we? She's not a Neanderthal. The Neanderthals were the ones who raised her. So, and she had a medicine woman raise her. And as the woman described, Jean All was describing all of the herbs and stuff like that, I had this cellular memories within me of knowing what she was writing and knowing all about it. It opened the door for me to do my herbal studies. And I was, let's say, if I hadn't have been taking so many drugs, I might have got 100%. I got 98. So yeah, I was like, I remember going, oh, damn it, if I'd put my focus, I might have got 100%. It would be the only thing I'd ever got 100% on in those days. But yeah, it really touched my soul and spoke to my cells and awakened another layer of something in me. So, like you're saying, reading the books and feeling that part of you, and, calling in the artist or calling in the playful side.
Yeah, I really resonate with that, because that's what happened to me when I discovered a guy called Nassim Haramein, and he's a scientist. He has a website called Resonant Science, and I follow him on Facebook, and sometimes I post some of his things in Witch Bitch, and they are they're about quantum physics and the Merkaba and energy and the torrid field and things like that. And before I started to research sacred geometry and things like that, I had never heard of him. But when I hear him speak about certain things, I just get it, instantly get it. And I don't know how I get it. I don't know how I understand what he's talking about, because I'm not really a sciencey person in this life. But yeah, it just intrigues me, and I want to know more, and I want to hear more. So I've kind of done this massive big research on him. And then through that, I started to fall in love with sacred geometry. And now through my jewelry making, I use the principles of the golden ratio and things like that in my designs for my jewelry. So yeah, I totally resonate with that.
Yeah.
You know something, you don't know how you know.
Yeah. And just think of the magic that you're weaving into that, because you're tapping into the field of another dimensional field to create these beautiful pieces to bring into the world. So
yes,
you're putting magic into your jewelry.
Yeah, exactly. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to do it, was to create these pieces to give to people, you know, that hold that energy in them, that sacred geometry of love, or the sacred geometry of, you know, whatever it is, like understanding or alchemy of integrating negativity in your life, things like that. So they're like little power, like a, you know,
For sure.
Captain America's shield, you know, that sort of thing. They hold power.
Yeah, like a little, it's literal, that's like witchcraft, but in the most beautiful way. It's like, I've never really thought about witchcraft in jewelry in that way, like in metal smithing.
Yeah, and the beautiful
silversmithing.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing about it is that when the wearer is wearing it, then it takes on that personality of that person, and then that piece can be handed down through the generations, and it takes on the energy of each of the people that own it. It infuses into the gemstones and the metal of it, because metal is conductive.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Give me all the jewelry.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm lucky to have her as my mom. She doesn't charge me much.
Yeah, absolutely. To have that, you know, and for you two beauties to be doing this and awakening together and having the conversations, the corridor we'd call it, around all of this, you know, like my family just look at me sideways sometimes.
Us too.
Yeah, but it's mostly me looking at her sideways, because I think Juliet, like, I've had longer on this planet than she has.
Obviously. Yeah.
And I've had a lot more programming, obviously. I've had a lot more programming to unravel. So it's great because she's the catalyst to me, where she presents me with a topic or an idea of some kind. And when I give her the side eye, that's when I know. That's when I know.
Where are you going with this? But
yeah, that's when I know that I have some growing to do. Like, I need to take that layer off, and because she's normally you're normally right on the money, like. And I think that's the beautiful thing too about our show, is that happens in real time on the show. Like, there are times when I give you the side eye even on the show. And then, you know, I'm like, okay, that's me having to look at that program in me.
Yeah.
She's showing me that. She's my mirror.
Yeah. But I do honor in you never act out on
No, it's
that.
kind of funny.
It's never like a belittling or
no.
You never put me down. I mean, I remember before we were awake, I remember telling you about like conspiracies, and you were just kind of there like, yeah, and kept doing work. Like, that's what it was.
Yeah,
like.
right, Juliet.
Yeah, but
thanks for telling me that.
But it was never like, yeah, I'm really grateful because you've never been mean about it.
No. No, who am I to, like, you know, like, that's the thing about me though. I think that's the good thing, is that who am I to judge? Who am I to say that's not true? I mean, who are any of us? Because really, at the end of the day, I'm not an expert. I don't know for sure. Like, just because you can't see something doesn't mean it's not there. I mean, that's the whole point of faith, isn't it? And believing in something bigger than yourself. If you can believe in something bigger than yourself, then who am I to say, well, that's wrong or that's right or whatever?
Yeah.
For sure.
I'm going to be open to it all. And if it resonates, and that's a huge learning for me, if it resonates with me and it sits in like the sacred geometry, you know, it kind of fits in there, then I'm going to run with it. That's all that matters, is if it connects with me.
Yeah, and it's learning. I think part of our journey is learning that yes vibration and that no vibration, you know, like what's really in alignment with ourselves. That's kind of, and that really helps. That helps us to make decisions easier, and you know, to move forward or to let go or to
that no vibration, or no vibration is maybe just wait for a bit and find out more.
Sometimes sleeping on it's a good idea.
You've
got some big stuff and you're sitting, you know, like, because sometimes the ego is like, yeah, let's do this, and the body's like, I'm not sure about this. No,
Yeah,
like, you're not quite listening to your body saying no, but your ego's going, yay, party, let's do it. Like, okay, I might sleep on that and see what it says in the morning.
Yeah. Awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. It's
You're
been a
welcome.
beautiful conversation.
We could talk for ages. There's so much to chat about.
Yes. Well, we'll have you on again if you'll come back.
Sure, I'd love to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just admiring your background, Juliet.
That's Juliet's handiwork.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Really cool.
Yeah, it was my project during lockdown.
Mm.
This is like my ways of escaping, and like this is basically my awakening in painting form, which is like interesting now that I literally sleep next to it and like can see it every day and how far.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's really awesome. I'm glad that I chose this as my project.
Yeah, we get an insight into her brain. What goes on inside her head.
Yeah. Oh.
Well, that's
Well, thank you. Does everyone feel complete?
Yes. Yeah.
That's good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Hope everyone's got a little bit of insight into a few things there, and been
Amazing.
great.
Thank you for sharing with us, Tracy.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Oh, okay. Goodbye, everyone.
Mwah. Bye. See you
Bye.
next week.